Hey everyone, welcome back to Chocolate and Spice to Brown Women Talk. I am Nidhi, and today we are diving into one of the more personal, more polarizing question in parenting. Do you want a second child? We both have been asked this question a lot at play dates, at family gatherings, even by strangers in grocery store where they ask us, so when is the next one coming? Like it's the obvious step.
Yeah, and hey, I'm Neha, and in this episode, we're going to talk openly about what influenced those choices, right? Like our upbringing, secondary infertility, our capacity, our mental load, the cultural pressure we feel as brown women, and how much of this comes from what we were taught growing up versus what we truly want now. And the other thing is, we both have one child each, but we've landed in very different places about whether we wanted another one. So, no right or wrong answers here, just honest stories and maybe some solidarity if you're navigating this too. All right, with that, Nidhi, I'm going to ask you the first question. Did you always picture yourself with more than one child? And when did that picture change or get clearer?
So, growing up, I never really pictured myself with kids or even getting married. And I've talked this earlier during a motherhood episode too. So, I'm the kind of person who is always very happy with what is going on present in that moment in my life. So, I was very happy with my life, my husband, our routine, our freedom. I didn't want to switch things up. But my husband always wanted to become a father. And deep down, I did always want to become a mother, but I just needed a little bit of push. So once I had Vikram, my 6 year old right now, I felt complete. I never ever thought about having another kid. The desire never ever showed up for me. It was honestly very, very clear quickly that I certainly didn't want more. So, in my mind, to answer your question, it was always just one child. I wanted to experience motherhood, parenthood, and I'm very satisfied with what's going. I don't want to add more to my family.
Yeah, kind of similar actually in some aspects. I had always wanted a kid, so and again, I also talked about that in the motherhood episode. And so, I think by the time I was 24, I had my son Aryan, who is 19 years old now. And yeah, I same as you, when after having Aryan, I feel complete. Like, I always wanted to be mother, and I became a mother, and I had a kid who I loved with all my heart, and I feel like I didn't need anything else. That was it. That was my entire world. And for the longest time, that was my world actually. Until, I feel like I get influenced by what society expects somewhat, far more definitely than you do. And so as I started seeing maybe some of, my neighbors or friends having second kids, and especially as cultural pressure came in of when are you going to have second kid, my mind started changing about whether I want a second kid or not. So I had actually never wanted, and I think all the way up till my son turning 10, I didn't even think about it. It was somehow at that when he turned 10 and I was in my mid 30s, and I was like, it's now or never, right? Because I'm only getting older. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I want a second child. And it was with a little bit of hesitation, not complete surety, because it didn't come from a place of this is what I want with my life. So yeah, I have a lot about my own story to talk later in the podcast, but I will say that ultimately I did want a second child, and I did try for it.
All right. And what part did your childhood experience play in your decision? Anything with like having me as a sibling or seeing the community or society around you?
Um, so yeah, I mean, of course, you and I are very close, and having you as my sibling was super, super helpful because I'm such an introvert. And so, I've been very quiet growing up. It was very helpful to have you as a friend and, somebody I could share my thoughts with. I'll be very honest, it never influenced my decision on having one or two kids. I mean, Aryan, my son, is his own person. He's different from who I was. He's growing up in very different circumstances. And so it wouldn't have made any sense to sort of identify my experiences with whatever he was going through. And so, under at no point did I think about us being two sisters and therefore he needs to have another sibling. And then we've come from very big families, right? Like, our mom has quite a few siblings, our dad also has a lot of siblings. at no point did I think I wanted to have a large family because I saw all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, same for me. It gave me a reference point, but it didn't ever dictate my decision. If anything, maybe seeing in a community or society that siblings are not always close, or how parenting two or two plus kids is another whole level of chaos, made me very certain that I only wanted one child. But how much of your decision was emotional or logistic versus cultural?
Well, initially, like I said, it was one of those things where this is what I wanted with my life. I knew I wanted to work, like I knew I wanted to have a career, and I'm very into hobbies and doing a lot of different things. And then I also wanted to be a mom, and I also wanted to be, the kind of wife that I wanted to be. And with all of that together in a country where you don't have a lot of support, because this is, like we're not used to living in a country where we don't have obviously a lot of family around. So combine all of that, I just wouldn't have had the energy to have a second kid or more kids. And that did play on my mind because I know how much energy I have, and I wanted to be a good of whatever I wanted to be. So so logically, I kind of knew I didn't want another kid. And plus I was actually very, very happy with Aryan. And I think what triggered my desire for second kid was emotional and cultural. And culture influence emotion, because culturally, as I saw probably having a second kid is a great idea, then I started only noticing that. I started only noticing families with two kids. You know how your mind plays that game with you, and that's what you see. What you see around is what your mind wants you to see. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, am I the only one with a single kid? Like, I should have a second. And so it started becoming an emotional thought. And then I was like, oh, maybe I want girl child. And like weird things, like you start explaining that phenomena to yourself, like, oh, maybe I want a girl child. Wouldn't it be great to have a daughter for my son, and they'd be like nice playmates. And forget the fact that my son was already 10, and there was like a little baby was not going to be a playmate. So at a point it was not logical. And so when I did start my journey to have a second kid, um, it was a very, very emotionally heavy decision, which made it extremely difficult for me and my husband, because we didn't end up having a second child for a bunch of different reasons. And that's what's called secondary infertility. I can get into that a bit more. And so it was exceeding, those years were some of very painful years for me. And, constantly trying for years after years, month after month, and failing. Um, was was just very hard. But how about you?
Yeah, for me it was always very practical. I never had this emotional pull towards a second child or even any cultural longing to complete a family. I just wanted to experience motherhood and I did, and that chapter was closed. And there's so much that goes into raising a family. Like we don't have a village. Our parents will not be able to come here and support us take care of the children. So that was another factor that played in me making this decision. I want to provide the best for my kid, and that's financially, maybe I can do the best I can with just one kid. And I
Mm-hmm.
know this might be termed selfish for a lot of reasons, because people want bigger families, and I completely understand where that coming from. But for me, it was completely practical. That's how my brain works. I don't give into societal pressure, or my in-laws or my parents wanting us to complete the family with another kid, or my son. Like Vikram is at such an age that he asks for a sibling. He says, oh, do I have a brother or sister? It's like, no. Will I have one? I said no. Then he pretends that there is a baby in my belly. I don't think he understands the whole concept, but he does want one because he gets bored at home. But I'm not going to make a decision because a 6-year-old wants me to have a kid. That's I mean, as a couple, me and my husband have made this decision practically, that one is what is works well for our family. We want to travel, we want to provide the best, and financially we can provide the best for one kid. So there's a lot of practical aspect. We don't let emotion dictate that decision in our life.
That's so good. Like hearing your talk makes me just open my eyes. I wish you had told me all of that when I was going through my emotion struggle. I know you also matured and you grew. because I don't like, I know at some point you said it may be termed selfish. Why would it be termed selfish? It is your life. You are going to be the one responsible. You have to do everything. Absolutely no one in the world has any right to call it selfish, because they're not going to come and do one thing for you. So
I
I
know
I
it's so
really,
weird. In the back of my mind, even though I've made this decision, there's something in the back of my mind kind of says that, you know, maybe I should have another kid for Vikram. That we'll get in the lonely part and all of that. It's like, am I making the right decision? Then I have to tell myself no. A happy family, a happy mother is is what brings happiness to a family and can make the child happy. But if I put in the pressure of having another kid in my late 30s, and then go through the whole process, and it's not like my energy is vibrant.
yeah.
So yeah, it is a lot of like practical decision making that goes into it.
Yeah, yeah. And to your point, yes, kids will want a lot of things, but they cannot possibly dictate something that you are going to be responsible for. In my case, honestly, Aryan didn't actually ask. Once he turned 10, maybe he asked, but maybe because I was already thinking about it, and so he was kind of getting those vibes. So he kind of felt, it kind of felt like, so that's why, like, for the first 10 years, I didn't even feel encouraged or pushed to go towards it. It's only when I realized, like, oh, my own, biological clock is gonna wear out, is was like, last minute, should I? Like, and that's where your confidence is amazing, because you made a very decisive, you have a very decisive thinking based on logic, and that really works much better than hurting yourself with emotional output. So
And guilt is like, I don't want to deal with that guilt
yeah,
portion at all.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what role does career, energy, or identity outside of motherhood play in your decision? I know you mentioned that you did want a second kid a little bit later, but was any of this thing that you did career or your energy or any of these things come into play at that time?
I think so. So, and again, I've talked about this in my motherhood episode, our motherhood episode, a bunch, so I won't go deeper into it, which is like how I was very young in a new country, and having my kid Aryan here was a lot of taxing. It was very taxing on my energy and my health, and also to a great extent my career, which I had to kind of restart. And so, having had to restart and go through a lot of changes in my career with a little kid in a new country, I think that was another reason I didn't want a second one, because I needed to reach that stable point. And I feel like in my mid 30s, I kind of reached that stable point. I kind of knew what I was doing, where I wanted to go, what I could handle with a kid. And Aryan was old enough that he could have managed his own thing more or less, right? So I was at a point where I felt like it's perfect. Like I can go for it. And so that's why I went for it. And just like expanding a bit more on secondary infertility, because I feel like it does influence a lot of people. And I was just reading some data points on it. I didn't realize like 14% of people do get affected by it. And the definition of that is someone who's had successful pregnancy before is not able to conceive or be successfully pregnant this another time. So that's what secondary infertility is. So in my case, and I want to be super transparent to help anybody who's going through it, it's a roller coaster ride, and incredibly hurtful and hard. And I'm long past it, so potentially I'm not gonna cry. I usually end up crying in podcasts, but I'm not gonna cry today. I started somewhere in my mid 30s, and I just assumed, like my husband and I assumed, like we got pregnant so easily the first time. It's like, of course we're gonna get pregnant the second time, and we were very sure. Like we already planned a lot of things, but in hindsight we shouldn't have done, and it didn't happen. The first month didn't happen. The second month didn't happen. The third month didn't happen. And by the 6 months when it didn't happen, I started worrying, because I had already read like mid 30s. Then you have to go check with your doctor on what's going on. And I, in my mind, was as healthy as I could be. Actually, now I realize I was not particularly healthy, but I looked fit. So it was a 6 month mark, and I went to the doctors. And there's another thing that's called unexplained infertility, which is when all your tests have been done on you, and nobody can diagnose what's wrong. So I'm not forgetting all the tests, but like a bunch of tests were done on me. Everything came out just fine, right? Like apparently my egg counts were also fine, which is one of the bigger problems as you get older. And so now what, right? And then people are like, oh, just, don't think about, like, a lot of well-meaning people around you will be like, don't think about it too much. If you don't think about it too much, it will automatically happen. I don't have, especially when you're told that it's the opposite of what you actually do, right? So time went on, right? I think towards the 9 or 1 year mark, doctors started advising that I start getting um, procedures, or the next steps to see if we could conceive through medication and other things. So imagine, like, again, it's getting traumatic. I'm also working full time. I also have Aryan, who's still relatively young, right? He's only 10. And we're going through all of this. So then we started going to the infertility clinic, and I started taking medications for, again, there is a whole cadence to medications and for how long you take. And there are different kinds of medications. You start with a smaller dose, or I think you start with a specific kind and then they switch medication. So I went through all of that. And the other thing is, like, those medications also, I feel like, change your health in certain ways. So it also starts mattering. But anyway, I was ready to do all of that. So I did all of that medications. Nothing doing, like, didn't change anything. And then there was another step. It's called IUI. Let me make sure I pronounce it correct. It's called intrauterine insemination, which is also another way of, like, ensuring sperm is placed directly into the uterus if that was the issue. So we even tried that a bunch of times. And I remember I used to take some injections also directly of some hormones or stuff, like a lot of different things we tried. And we tried this for three years, all the different methods and medications and processes. Nothing happened. Ultimately, we reached the stage after which the only possible option was IVF, or in vitro fertilization. And then it was a big decision for us, just like, do we want to do that? Because it's, one, it's expensive, it costs. Second, it is also disruptive on your life. And how much did we want to go for it? So we made a decision, both my husband and I, that we didn't want to go for IVF, and we were going to continue trying naturally. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So after that, we still continued trying naturally for the next 3 years. So I think overall, like, I tried for 6+ years, and obviously unsuccessfully. And um, and this is just like the procedural stuff. I also experimented a lot with my body, which I know you know about, and tried different diets. I'm like, maybe I don't eat enough protein, so I went on a keto diet because I read a bunch of blogs and stuff. Like, I used to be obsessed with it, crazily obsessed. Like, I'd monitor everything in my body, and I ate a lot of protein. And I mean, though it didn't help with anything. And then I was like, okay, no sugar. Maybe sugar is cause, so absolutely cut off sugar. Like, what I'm trying to say is, then I tried some herbs and tried drinking tea and whatnot. Like, you name it, I've done it. And of course, nothing helped. Nothing helped. And it was a very hurtful. By the time I was closing six, like, I'd already reached my 40. I think I was already above 40 by that time. And it was already very clear once I crossed 40 that if if I didn't make it in my 30s, the chance to make it in my 40s is null. And so, sorry, nil. And so we decided to not torture ourselves anymore, because the thing is, if you keep trying and if you keep failing, it hurts you, right? Like, it hurts you because you have some hope, and the hope dies every single time, every month, and it hurts you. And we've done it for long enough that we were like, um, we're fine with a single kid. And then it, like, I'm good with switching my mode, and I was able to switch my mode, and I was like, I'm extremely happy with my son. And it's a long story, but I wanted to share in case
Yeah.
anyone's going through it and it helps them.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And Yeah, I mean, I think you said it all. I mean, unlike you, I had Vikram in my early 30s,
Yeah.
right? So I'm still in the thick of young, child, and going running after him. So I mean, I understand that I don't have unlimited stamina, unlimited energy, and career wise too. I'm in a very pivotal stage. I'm ambitious. I want to do great things with my career. I want to grow at work. And as much as we want to deny it, but pregnancy and early motherhood does create a pause in our career. Like it's a real thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's a real thing, and I just don't want to do it right now. So also the support factor is a big one. It's just that we have like no village, and I think I said about it earlier too. So if we plan to have another kid, it'll be just me and him, and I just don't want that responsibility again. Tell you the truth, I'm still traumatized by Vikram's newborn stage when he wouldn't sleep for like the first 5 months, and I still haven't forgotten that. So
Yeah.
even when I see a newborn, I kind of, oh my God, it would be so nice to have a baby. I'm like, oh, my, uterus is on fire. It's like I'm
Right.
so excited to see a baby. But at that time, I miss Vikram's childhood, like his baby stage. I'm not craving a new baby. You know what
Right.
I mean? It's like I just miss how wonderful that stage was when he was like 1 year old, 2 year old, or a baby. And now he's obviously growing up. He doesn't need me anymore. So, but I never, even after seeing a newborn baby, I never had the desire to have my own. And sometimes my husband is like, "Oh, should we have another baby?" He's like, "You go and have another baby."
That's hilarious. Yeah, and the funny part is mine was the opposite because remember, Aryan was already 10 years old. I had long forgotten. I mean, you're not gonna forget your child's baby time, but it's not as close, right? And one of the reasons I didn't want to have a second kid was because I used to remember when my son was a baby, and I didn't want that memory to like change. I wanted to always keep thinking about my son as a little kid and a little baby and how I held him and how cute he was and things like that. And the funny part is, I think you had your kid just when I started deciding like I'm not gonna have, right? I think somewhere around that time.
Mhm.
And I remember coming to see Vikram, and what an adorable kid, like tiny kid, like baby smell, all the softy, and all of that was nice. And then I saw all the struggle that you were going through, which I had completely forgotten, and how hard it was, and how much fuss a little baby makes. And then for a minute, I thought to myself, like, maybe not a bad idea to not have a second kid, right? Like, it's funny because you're reminded of everything that you have to go through, and if you're not truly ready, perhaps it's a better thing that you don't go through it. So yeah, a pros and cons list would be great if somebody's
And
trying.
you had totally forgotten. I still remember when you had come to visit. I think Vikram was like 4 or 5 months old. And you were like, "Why is he crying so much?" And I'm like, "What?
I know.
What question is that?" It's like, "You just fed him. Why is he crying?" He's like, "I don't know. He just cries all the time. He doesn't sleep." And I'm like bouncing on that bouncy ball and trying to make
I
him
know.
sleep. And our mom used to be there. And I think Vikram had some gas issues. I don't really know what his problem was.
Yeah.
But Ma used to bring that ajwain thing, and you both used to keep rubbing on his belly because he would cry so much, and we had like no clue why he's crying. But yeah, you had totally forgotten, and you were like, "Oh, yeah, he looks small, but he's heavy." And he's
I know. I made the weirdest comments like a completely clueless person considering
it
I
was
was
like, yeah, she has totally forgotten how hard newborn stage is, and that
yeah,
happens, as years go by, that memory fades, right? The
yeah, 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 yeah,
memory
yeah.
fades.
So yeah, it was good to learn from you.
So.
Okay, a question for you. Have you experienced, like, now that you're pretty sure you're gonna not have a second kid, have you experienced any regret or do you doubt your choice whatsoever?
No, I can say confidently that I've never regretted this choice at all. I never ever imagined myself in a big family. Like I never imagined that there's going to be dining space and there'll be like 5 kids or even more than one kid running around. That was never my dream. So it's not like I'm letting go of a dream.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, again, uh, I know Vikram is still very young, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the kind of person that ever regrets a decision. Like I'm extremely sure, and my husband and I both have made this decision together.
Hmm.
So far, I feel I'm not going to regret it. And plus, by the time Vikram is going to graduate, I'll already be 50 or something. So, so it's like I'll be still in the thick of parenthood till I'm in my early 40s, and by that time, I'm pretty sure I'll be all good.
All good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my energy and my hormones would be declining so rapidly that I won't have time to think of it. But yeah,
But
what
do
about
you,
yeah?
for me, no, no, no more. Like I'm kind of similar to you. Once I make a decision, past is done, like past is over and done with. So I know it was a lot of time that I went through trying for a second kid, but the moment I decided I'm totally okay not having a second kid was the moment I was totally okay not having a second kid. And I have absolutely zero regrets and absolutely zero doubts about whatever choice I made, and I'm very, very happy with my current situation. So yeah, I feel great. Um, One question that I'm sure you get asked a lot as well is, do you worry your only child is going to get lonely? And, do you value having a larger family just to give a sibling to your kid? Like, does that come into play for you?
Uh, if your question is, will he feel lonely just being one child? I don't know. I mean, that's hard to say what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but I think that depends on the kind of environment we are able to create for him. Like we do have very intentional play dates. I make sure that he's close to you. We visit often, and I make sure my friends are involved in his life. Plus, we've also seen examples of people who have one kid and they are thriving. Like Aryan is a perfect example. Plus, I've seen other people, like other friends who have just one kid, and the kid is like kind, thoughtful, great at what they do. So that also gives me confidence that it is the right choice. So I mean, there's a lot of advantages of raising like a singleton. I'll be able to provide a lot for the kid financially. I'll be in a better position to provide for one kid. We can travel, we can do so much more with just one child. So yeah, I mean, I hope he's not lonely. I think we're going to do the best we can to stay connected with the community and the family. But yeah, that decision is not going to change my, like, I'm not going to have another kid just thinking that my child is going to be lonely. I don't think that's the right reason to have a second kid. Like if I really want to, I will, but not because my child is going to be lonely.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you can be lonely in a large
Yeah.
gathering or in a large family. It really depends upon your personality, and to a great extent, it also encourages kids to figure a way out to get out of themselves and their safe space and make friends and take more risks, which we all need to do in our lives. So, yeah,
And
same
you
for
have
me.
very well thought about it, right?
Yeah.
You have told me about it, like how you push Aryan, your son, to be connected with a family. Like even though he doesn't have a sibling, it's like as long as there is people who he can reach out to,
Yeah.
which is not you and your husband, it's still good, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like extended family, the whole concept of extended family would have been hard for him to fathom in America, especially because we are so like our family is not as heavily here based out of here. And so I really forced him to understand the concept of cousins and uncles and aunts, and even if there are second cousin, third cousins, like be connected, learn about them. And perhaps that wouldn't have happened if we had been our own little circle and not willing to go outside. So in a way it's good, that's the kind of that's kind of an impetus to create your own community also. So I'm hoping both our kids end up doing that.
Okay.
All right.
I have one last question for you,
Yeah.
which is, I think, important question for us to cover. What do you wish people would stop asking or assuming about people, like families with one kid?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So many things. I mean, definitely one is assumptions are a problem at any point, right? Like I talked about secondary infertility. So, coming to somebody who really did want a larger family and saying, hey, you just had one kid, your kid is this old up, you guys are so selfish, which by the way, I've been told a couple of times. And like you don't know what they're going through and you don't know how much you're going to hurt them because they really wanted and they couldn't do for a bunch of different reasons. So that assumption is terrible. But then also the assumption that you know better about a person's family or about a person's needs than they is also a fallacy. If a person didn't have a second child, it's probably because they thought through it and didn't want to have a second child. So you really shouldn't come in from this advisory perspective, like, look, I got 5 kids, like you gotta have 5 kids, or I know better because I'm older. I think those are the kind of assumptions I'm hoping society doesn't force on others.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. Like, if whether a family has one kid, five kid, or no kid, I don't think anybody should probe, suggest, hint, or comment, or ask any question. It's their life. And there's
Yeah.
so many other things to talk about, think about. Like, this is not a topic that anybody should ask anybody. As you mentioned, like, you don't know what's going on with other person's life, like whether they are complete, incomplete, that's none of your business. So I would just say, in this case, stay in your lane and and only discuss or talk about things that matter, and not kind of make assumption about other people's life.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. And just to close it out, for those of us who are still figuring it out, it's totally okay to continue talking to folks, kind of connecting and getting different perspectives. And we're always allowed to change our minds, like my example showed. And it's always okay to hold space for uncertainty and really listen to what feels right for our lives at that given moment. I think that is the most precious thing at the end of the day. And again, motherhood is not a one size fits all experience, and neither is the number of kids we choose to have.
Yeah. For sure. And if this conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to share it with a friend, family, leave us a rating, a comment. Your engagement really helps us grow. And you can listen to Chocolate and Spice to Brown Women Talk anywhere you get the podcast. Go visit our website, chocolateandspicetalk.com, and leave us like an email or anything that you want to talk about in our next episode. If you would like us to feature you, then send us an email at hello@chocolateandspicetalk.com. All right.
Right.
Bye for now.
Bye.